dwi'n gweithio yn ysgol gynradd Langstone. I did prepare my notes in Welsh, but I'm going to go English, I think. So bear with me. I've been working in Langstone now for 8 years, predominantly in foundation phase. Worked in reception for 2 years and year 1 and 2 mixed class for 2 years. Then I was lucky enough to go on the sabbatical with Lydia and Susie last year, which was absolutely fantastic, as Susie said. And now I'm up in Key Stage 2, which I was quite nervous about starting, but I thought, especially for the Welsh, I thought it was important to go up and experience it, and I'm a bit more settled now. Now we're in June. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Whilst we were on the course, we had the Project Ysgol out in America, so we would go back to our schools on a Wednesday, and I thought it was really, really important to start with training staff to begin with on using incidental Welsh in the classroom. They were confident with sefwch, eisteddwch, but I just wanted to, one of the key sessions I took from the sabbatical was the incidental Welsh session. So I started off with training all staff, teachers and TAs, and talked about how each command has a preposition that goes with it, and introduced them to things like dywedwch, trafodwch, gweithiwch gyda partner, and we played some games with those just to get the staff's confidence up first in using incidental Welsh. I then went and worked in each team. So in our school we work as a nursery team, reception team, year 1, 2 work together, year 3, 4 work together, and 5, 6. So I planned a block of lessons for each year, and I went and modelled those lessons. So I linked it to their project because we have a project each term in our school. So reception were doing learn about insects. So I planned a block of lessons using the sentence builders, as you've seen from Susie's slides, that to show the staff and the children how the sentence builds. So I modelled the lessons using all the incidental Welsh that we talked about in the training, and showing them all the new games. There's so many games from the using new sentence builders, which I think was really helpful for staff to see it in action first before expecting them to implement it. And then that was after Easter. Then I went up to Key Stage 2 and I modelled sessions up there with them as well, using the sentence builders and the new games that we'd learned. And Miss Medi ar ôl y course, dychwelais i i'r ysgol a dechreuais i dysgu yn blwyddyn 3 a 4, so I started working in year 3 and 4. But I focused mainly on developing Welsh across the school. I didn't just work in my team. I tried to, work with all staff, work with all pupils across the school this year. So a few things that I've done is I've started paned sgwrs with staff, introduced Patrwm y Mis, working with the language legends. I've done more staff training, and I've planned with staff as well, which I'll talk a little bit more about now. But I dechrau, to start, when I was on the course, we used to go to Welsh breakfast every Friday morning with lots of Welsh speakers, and it was a really, really lovely experience, and I just really enjoyed it. So I started paned sgwrs in my school. I was a bit nervous to get started because I didn't know if anybody would show up, but luckily I've had lots and lots of support, and it's lovely to see lots of different faces coming in and out. It's an optional thing before school, between 8:15 and 8:30, so just a little short burst of promoting the Welsh language with staff. And I know how busy we are as teachers, so it's nice to just see when they can, they pop in and they join in. So we have cup of tea, a crumpedi, and sgwrs yn Gymraeg. And I've also made sentence builders to support the staff as well, so that they're able to have confidence when they join us. I don't just expect them to be able to come out and have a conversation with me all in Gymraeg about their weekends, their holidays. So I keep updating sentence builders for them to use as well. So we're keeping on going with that, and hopefully hoping to get parents involved next year as well, see how that goes. If we can, maybe Shemai Day or have special paned sgwrs for parents as well. Nesa, bit like Susie, I've started a Patrwm y Mis, where I take one sentence pattern from the EAS continuum, and I plan Cam 1, Cam 2 and Cam 3 all in one pack. So staff can choose where they feel their class is at, because I think when I modelled my sessions throughout the school, I noticed there was pockets of really, really strong Welsh, really, really confident. There was pockets of not so confident as well. So the pack is all in one PowerPoint for each month, and the staff can dip in and out, and if they feel feeling more confident with when they can move from cam un to cam 2 and so on. So dyma cam 1, here's progression step 1. So this is mis Ebrill, we looked at hobbies. So I picked about 6 new vocabulary words to learn, and then we play lots and lots of games, splat, bingo, pairs, and then once they're confident with the vocab, then we move on to the sentence builder. I sometimes tweak it that there's no reasons why, so if I feel like it's a bit tricky for them, I'll make some slides for especially reception. They don't have to go into the reasons why, they can just stick with dwi'n hoffi. And then we play things like personal and sefyll, cyn ffordd, and then if it's appropriate, then we go on to the question as well, and drill questions like tren to practice asking and answering those questions. When I created the pack, I introduce it in a Patron Mis assembly each month. So at the start of every month I'll do assembly, and I'll do it with our language legends, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. And we introduce it, we launch it, and then in class then staff work on it throughout the month. We don't say to do it every day, but as much as they can in our early morning activities, as and when they can, because obviously this is one pattern. You'll obviously need to be keeping other sentence patterns on the boil, as well as the discrete Welsh lessons as well. So dyma cam 1, cam 2, few more new words for them to learn. We introduce the vocabulary and play some games, and then we go on to the sentences. As you can see, as we go to cam 2, they have a few more options, so hoffi and mwynhau, more reasons why, and they're gyddol as well, the negative, and bringing in both the positive and the negative in when they're ready. So lots and lots of games, and then the question as well. So that's an example of our slides for cam 2. And then cam 3 is that little bit more challenging again, where we've covered lots of different sentence patterns previously, so we feel that they're more confident to go on to dwi'n dwliaf, dwi'n casau, and lots of reasons why. But same format, introduce the vocabulary first, then the sentence pattern, and then the question later on. Because I think one thing I know I've been guilty of, and the teachers in my school, we've introduced way too much. Before I went on the course, I was introducing way too much in one session. I was introducing the vocabulary, the question, the sentence pattern, and no wonder at the end of the session they were like, oh, what have we learned about it? So we've really slowed it down in our school, especially with our Patron Mis and our planning, which you'll see in a moment. Dyma language legends. So here are our language legends. We used to have Crew Cymraeg, but where we're bringing in international languages as well, we've renamed them language legends. So their role is to promote Welsh and languages across the school. So as I said, they work with me. They've decided a couple of the Patron Mis packs with me. They said just last month, they said, oh, we really should practice asking and answering what we want for dinner. For lunch. So they come up with the vocabulary with me, and then we planned it together, and then they introduced it in assembly with me. And then we go off and we create a little video then and post it on our bug bulletin on Seesaw for them to practice at home when they can. So here's a little video of our language legends. We try and link it to what's going on in the school as well. So this video was from World Book Day. So our Patron Mis was all around books. I don't know if it's going to work. Never mind, it's okay. But they just introduce the pattern, they tell everybody what the pattern of the month is, and then they model it. So there's in foundation phase, we're learning this pattern, this means this, you can extend with this, and they tell us in key stage 2. So we play it in assembly for everyone to watch, and then we post it on the bug bulletin for them to practice at home as well. We also were lucky enough to visit a Welsh speaking school as well this month, and they loved going around the school and seeing, they couldn't believe Welsh was throughout the day at every moment. They were like, they're going to speak to us in Welsh. I was like, probably, but it's okay. But yeah, they really loved going to another school. We had a little lesson from some of the year 5 and 6 Crew Cymraeg from their Welsh school. And they just took lots of ideas we aimed to put them into practice next year. So that's our language legends. As I said previously, I've worked with staff and trained staff, teachers and TAs And we also do something called Teach Bites in our school, where at the start of a staff meeting, we give 5 or 10 minutes if someone's got something new that they want to share. So for me, I'll introduce one new game that I'll be putting in the Patrony's pack the next month, or if there's a new app of the month. So we spend 5-10 minutes working on a new game or something, and then our staff meeting starts. But I've done a bit of both, a bit of full staff meetings and Teach Bites. So this is where I've really modelled the use of sentence builders, because they've been so useful in our school. It was a bit like a light bulb went off with the staff, to be honest, when I showed them the sentence building. It's so easy to see how the sentence builds. But yeah, I introduced and I've recapped the commands, and then played games with the staff, which they really enjoyed. And they enjoyed seeing it in action before they were putting it into practice themselves. One thing we talked about a lot when I was training with the staff was how important it is to drill and have listening time. And I think I was guilty of it before I went on the course, that actually we introduced the new vocabulary and then we just expect them to use it and be confident with it. But actually, like between Chloe, between Dwight, having that time to hear the language and say the language, and for the teacher to model that language. So things like personal, I haven't said it, bingo, they're all really good listening activities where they haven't got the pressure on them to speak, but they can absorb the language before they're expected to use it. But yeah, so I've done lots of staff training, and we'll keep, there were so many games from the course that I think we'll keep introducing them each month through our Teach Bites as well. And then finally, I've worked with each team every half term. I've been lucky enough to work with each team and plan out their block of lessons. So we've looked at what project they'll be doing, and we look at the EAS continuum and decide what pattern they think would be most appropriate. So this is an example from spring term. Lloyd and Ina Dye were learning about, our project was Blast from the Past, so they were looking at things from the past, and they looked at schools in particular. They went to St Fagans. So I helped them to create a block of lessons that could really drill the language and get the children confident with the sentence patterns. In foundation phase, we start every session with the word wall spin the wheel game, and this is just to keep familiar sentence patterns on the boil, so poiotes, because another thing I've spoken to staff lots about is we learn a sentence pattern, we move on, and we don't tend to revisit it that much. So I try to drill the importance of actually revisiting sentence patterns over and over again. So that's part of every warm-up of every Welsh session. And then pretty much the same as the Patrony's pack, but just linked to their project. We introduce the vocabulary first, then play vocabulary games, and there they are there playing pairs. And then we introduce the sentence builder when they're ready, and then drill sentence patterns. If I can, I try to link to a book. So I spotted that they had Mynd i'r Ysgol in Podantir. So what I did was took the photos from the book, and I put it in present tense for the children, and I made it really simplified for the year 1 and 2 children to be able to have a go at reading it and finding out what a school in the past looked like. And then they went on then to write about it, match the pictures to the sentences. But yeah, they really enjoyed reading the book, and I made sure I put the sentence patterns that they drilled first into the book, and then they were able to use them to go on to Gwaith Careddau. And then here's an example of Blwyddyn Pump a Chwech. So they were doing the Romans in spring term as part of our Blast from the Past project. Pretty similar, you know, introducing the vocabulary first of all. Lots more vocabulary for them to be introduced to, because lots of them they were familiar with already. And then sentence builder, lots of listening activities first before we then introduce the book. So I used a Tudoriaid from Podantia to help me write a Romans book, because I couldn't find a Romans book, but we sat there, we used that book to help rewrite the book, and then they worked out to actually writing a little report on the Romans then. They really, really enjoyed it, and I think it was a really authentic context. They were in it, they were engaged with the learning, and yeah, they really enjoyed building up to being able to write about it independently then. And then next year, hopefully I'll work with staff again to keep building their confidence, hopefully model some more lessons for them and keep training them. like I said, hopefully I'll get some parents in for paned o sgwrs at some point and carry on with the patrons. But diolch.